Welcome to Turn It Around, a youth-led climate education movement which started over a year ago and evolved into an intergenerational movement of artists, activists, and academics working together to radically reimagine education futures. In this project, we used the most conventional learning tool, a deck of flashcards, in the most unconventional way. Usually, flashcards are used by adults to teach basic facts to children. In our project, we decided to turn it around and asked children and youth, what basic facts do they want policymakers to know when they make decisions about their futures? We had young people throughout the world send art and writing illustrating ways they would like to radically reimagine education and climate policy. Each card has a piece of art on one side and a piece of writing on the other side. We had a group of PhD students carefully analyze all the art and written submissions we received. From this analyzation, we created a policy report with suggestions for policymakers on what young people want to see from climate policy.
In our policy report, we highlighted 4 key turning points that we need to make in order to turn around the environmental catastrophe: the intergenerational turn, the decolonial turn, the methodological turn, and the pedagogical turn. We must take a pedagogical turn and redefine education purposes in broader ecological terms, reconfigure pedagogies to foster cultures of interdependence, open up education to learning with the world rather than about it, and creating learning spaces of resistance, resilience, and recuperation. We must take a decolonial turn in order to address the climate crisis for just and sustainable futures. We must center the voices of Indigenous and frontline communities in policy discussions, consult Indigenous and non-Western wisdom when building solutions, consider social justice in every climate decision, and empower and amplify Indigenous and non-Western voices. In order to take a methodological turn, we must resituate the human within the Earth's ecological community, ensure that the environmental movement holds space for people who are not in scientific or political professions, and find creative ways to communicate about and understand climate change, including art and poetry. We must take an intergenerational turn by engaging youth in decision-making spaces that pertain to their futures, empowering youth to take action for the climate crisis, providing opportunities to youth to co-build sustainable solutions with sustainability experts, and to mentor young people on how to effectively create change.
Why did we make art the center of this movement? In order to solve the climate crisis, we need to radically reimagine the way we live. Art holds the ability to transcend destructive norms of society and birth new revolutions of thinking, relating, and living. After identifying the 4 turns, our team wanted to find a way to turn this research into action. Here are some examples of how we have shared this research and messages from youth with various climate stakeholders. We traveled to many national and international conferences to share this project in front of diverse audiences, including world leaders, educators, activists, corporate executives, and scientists. Our card decks and policy reports have been shared with many world leaders, including United Nations officials, ministers of education, and members of parliament. Some of the leaders we have shared the project with include Antonio Guterres, John Kerry, Patricia Espinosa, and Amina Mohammed. Our artwork was also exhibited at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris this summer during their Transforming Education pre-summit. Many ministers of education passed by these works of art and writing before entering the UNESCO headquarters.
On Earth Day 2022, our team organized a march at Arizona State University where students carried posters with artwork from our project. Organizers of the march met with the university's president to present a student proposal on how the university could collaborate with, empower, and support students in building sustainable climate solutions. We continued to promote youth activism with our project during the 2022 New York Climate Week. Our team carried posters of artwork and writing while walking the streets of New York and on the New York subway, catching the attention of hundreds of people we passed by. At the New York Climate Strike, we shared our posters of the cards with strangers who joined us in showcasing the movement. We have recently been encouraging educators to use the cards in their own classrooms. In partnership with the Rob and Melanie Walton Sustainability Teachers Academy, we have engaged educators with the project and encouraged them to develop creative activities using the cards. Here's an example of a quilt made by Stitch for Science with student artwork inspired by the project.
If you would like to follow along with our movement, here are our social media handles.
What are your visions around climate policy and education? If you are under the age of 30, send us your artwork and written responses illustrating your hopes, feelings, and visions on climate change. We want to hear from you. So now, our questions to you are: what will you do to transform our current education systems to support climate and ecological understandings? What will you do to include and empower youth and marginalized voices in these decision-making spaces? How will you turn it around for climate futures?